All right, folks, welcome to Sunday Bible Study. And like I was telling you yesterday, 25 actually went to the next column. But so I should have did it yesterday. But this goes to Daniel 9, 25, 26, and 27 all run together. So let's go over it. And maybe I should bring it up in the New Living also. New Living was what I was raised on. It's a terrible translation, and yet it can give you different perspectives. That sometimes helps you understand the truth better, even though it leaves out verses. ESV leaves out verses. NIV leaves out verses because they're all from Westcott and Hort. They're from corrupted text. Not that Textus Receptus isn't corrupted in a lot of its translations and context, like John 3:16, for God so loved. Well, he loved his harmonious arrangement, which is the first definition. He didn't love the whole world. If he loved the whole world would be saved. So, for whom the Lord loveth, he chastens and scourges every son whom he receives. Jesus said only came for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. When you start to understand the definitions of elections and elect, then you really start to understand that even your Christianity is a chosen people. The New Testament is also a chosen people group. The church is Israel. Israel's the church. It's always been a chosen people. God has to have chosen you before the earth was even formed. That's Ephesians chapter 1, verses 4 and 5. So let's continue on here. Now, listen and understand. 7 sets of 7 plus 62 sets of 7 will pass from the time of the command is given to rebuild Jerusalem under a ruler. The anointed one comes. Jerusalem will be rebuilt with streets and strong defenses despite the perilous times. After this period of 62 sets of 7, the anointed one will be killed, appearing to have accomplished nothing. And a ruler will arise whose armies will destroy the city and the temple. The end will come with a flood, and war and its miseries are decreed from that time to the very end. The ruler will make a treaty with people for a period of 1 set of 7. But after half of this time, he will put an end to the sacrifices and the offerings. And as a climax to all his terrible deeds, he will set up a sacrilegious object that causes desecration until the fate decreed for this defiler is finally poured out on him. So let's go read it in the King James. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth, the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem unto the Messiah, the Prince, shall be 7 weeks, and 62 weeks. The street shall be rebuilt again, and the wall even in troublous times. After 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself. And the people of the prince shall come and destroy the city and the sanctuary. So when Jesus came, many thought that he accomplished nothing. And then the Antichrist will come where it speaks of the ruler and the ruler. So Jesus is killed. And after 62 weeks shall Jesus be killed, but not for himself. And the people of the prince shall come to destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with a flood, and unto the end of the war desolations are determined. Now look where it says a ruler here. The anointed one. That would be Jesus. Yellow would be Antichrist. In the King James, this would be Jesus. So the prince is the Antichrist. That's how it translates. If you go from one to the other, a ruler. And the Antichrist, there's the yellow, there's the yellow, there's the yellow, there's the yellow. Okay. That's what was a little confusing, looking at both translations. Because you have to go back to the original. Let's bring them up in blue letter. And just see what else is going on. As you can see, we've got Daniel 27 already up there. Well, let's put Daniel 26 up there also. Oh, it's up there. So obviously studied these before in the previous Daniel studies. I forget so much. I mean, going back and redoing them again, there's things I just don't remember. That's why I love going back. And that's why I go back and forth between Daniel and Revelation. Nonstop. And he shall confirm. He is a pronoun speaking about who? Who's the he? And after 62 weeks, shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself and the people. Not for himself and the people of the prince. The prince is the he. So the people of the prince, leader, ruler, captain, prince, ruler, prince, overseer, ruler, princely things. And it wasn't capitalized. The Messiah was. And he, this non-capitalized of the prince. See, the Messiah is different. Anointed one of the Messiah, Messianic prince of the King of Israel, the high priest of Israel, of Cyrus, of the patriarchs, as anointed of kings. But then later in the verse, it speaks of a prince, and that is, and he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. And as we have showed you, that week could be 7 years or 7 days. I lean towards 7 days. I have not always, because the world teaches us that it's definitely 7 years that this covenant is made. And you see that the Antichrist, Donald Trump, is making all kinds of peace agreements. But when does this covenant come about specifically? This here is written before this here. The flood, Revelation 12. Because it speaks of a flood. When the church is given 2 wings of a great eagle that it might fly into the wilderness, where she is nourished. Let's go look at that. What does that arrow there mean? A time and times and half a time. For a time and times and half of a time. Do measure, a measure of time, a larger or smaller portion of time. Let's look at for a time. Looks like for is there and time is the 2540. That's fine. So there's a 2540 again. A limited period of time. To what time brings do measure. And in that particular instant, they're talking about, they always tell us that's a year, then 2 years. So that's a year time. And this is 2 more years times, and then half of a time. So half of a year. Which would mean when the Antichrist rises from the dead, he has at that point, they're saying that he would create a 7-year covenant. And in the middle of that covenant, and I call it 3.5 days. And they don't give us any reason to think that it's years in what we just looked up in those translations. And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. And in the midst of that week, he shall cause the sacrifice and oblation to cease. And the people of the prince, the evil, the Antichrist world, shall come and destroy the city and the sanctuary. And thereof shall be with a flood, and that's the flood that you get back into. Then out of his mouth the waters of a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened up her mouth and swallowed up the flood of the dragon cast out of his mouth. And the dragon was wrought with a woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep, and that's during the Great Tribulation. So excuse me, when you go to Matthew 24 and you get to the part about fleeing to the wilderness, let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains. So the whole flee to the mountains flee to the mountains, fly into the wilderness. Flee to the mountains, fly into the wilderness. They're not color coded the same, sorry. Guess if I put it in yellow, they would be, right? Sometimes it lets me change it. Sometimes there's like a trick to getting it to change. There it goes. So fly into the mountains. Excuse me, flee into the mountains, fly into the wilderness. where she is nourished. So either the church or the remnant of the true Jews are going to be protected for 3.5 years. Or it's 3.5 days. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything, nor let him which is in the field turn back get the clothes, for there shall be great tribulation. Well, are the remnant of the Jews the ones that are protected from the great tribulation? And is it a figurative 3.5 years, but those days are cut short? So if it's 3.5 years, then when would he set his 7-year covenant? I mean, we've got one theory that the covenant was set back in December of 2017, and the 3.5 years is this May 19th. But that's when he would stop the daily sacrifices, which are not even taking place yet that we know of. I mean, we have heard that they are making sacrifices there in Israel. I guess I shouldn't say that. So it starts to get very confusing to me. So, but he confirms a covenant with many for 1 week, which would mean 7 years or 7 days. And in the midst of that week, which is after 3.5 years or after 3.5 days, he shall cause the sacrifice and oblation to cease, and the overspreading of abomination shall he make it. That's when he, see, all that takes place though when he returns from the dead. That's the abomination that causes desolation. He has seemingly returned from the dead. Even unto the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. In the 3rd year of Cyrus the king, now we move on to Daniel 10, of Persia, a thing was revealed unto Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar, and the thing was true, but the time appointed was long. And he understood the thing, and had understood of the vision in those days. I, Daniel, was mourning for 3 weeks. I ate no pleasant bread, neither came flesh nor wine in my mouth, neither did I anoint myself at all, till the 3 whole weeks were fulfilled. Let's move on to John. When Jesus said unto them, yet a little while is the light with you, he's the light, walk while you have the light, lest darkness come upon you, for he that walketh in darkness knoweth not where he's walking. While ye have light, believe in the light, that ye may be the children of the light. These things spake Jesus, and departed, and did hide himself from them. But though he had done so many miracles before him, yet they believed not on him. See, the Lord put it in their hearts for them not to believe or understand at this time, that the saying of Esaias the prophet might be fulfilled, which he spake, Lord, who have believed our report? Who have believed our report? And to whom have the arm of the Lord been revealed? Therefore they could not believe, because that Esaias said again, he hath blinded their eyes and hardened their hearts, that they should not see with their eyes, nor understand with their heart, and be converted, and I should heal them. These things said Esaias when he saw his glory, and spake of him. Nevertheless, among the chief rulers also many believed on him, but because of the Pharisees, they did not confess him, lest they should be put out of the synagogues, for they loved the praise of the men more than the praise of God. Love y'all very much. Ask questions.